great.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the meeting of the City Parks and Trails Committee on August 25th. Everybody is here except Darrell, who is in her first day of school. It's 3 more hours of work. So everybody is present. We do have members of the public here. The first order of business is approval of minutes, and we have 2 sets of minutes. One is for the last meeting on June 23rd, as well as the special meeting we had, which was about the logo. Is there a motion on both of those or either of those?
I can motion to approve the first one. I wasn't present at the second meeting.
Okay, motion to, any corrections on the June, second?
I'll second.
Any corrections on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And July 22?
I make a motion to approve the notes from July 22nd.
I'll second.
Clay and Carol. Any corrections to those minutes? Changes? If not, all in favor?
I like that.
All opposed? So our new business is a discussion with Lisa, procedures for social media outreach, etc. Lisa, I guess I'll just turn it over to you to introduce yourself. I used your title there, but you sort of fill a lot of roles, so
Yeah.
So
Some days.
why don't you go ahead and
So I'm Lisa Lau. I'm the HR director for the city, also admin services director and grant writer. So a lot of different hats that kind of cross over for what I do. The reason for this visit, we did receive a complaint about Parks and Trails Committee pursuant to the Reservoir Park Facebook stuff that went on a while back. In looking through that entire process, we did come to the conclusion that, while there is no ill will or bad intent on anyone's part, there are things that we can do better as an organization and also as a guiding organization for our boards and commissions and committees to assist you in those pieces of social media that can be so challenging. So out of that kind of situation arose a completely revised social media policy, which I've given you a copy of. We'll go over it at a pretty high level. I'm not going to get into the weeds with it because you guys got a pretty packed agenda, and I certainly don't want to hold these kind folks up from giving their feedback. The one caveat to the document I have handed out to you is that it has not been vetted through the unions yet for city employees. So the last block of it, kind of on the last page, is really where we get into some stuff around expectations for boards and commissions and committees. That is, I'm certainly open to feedback and input, but that is, as it stands right now, what the policy is. Just so folks kind of understand some of that differentiation. The core concept of everything that we do is that in no way will the communities and the citizens' rights to participate, provide feedback, or otherwise be included in a process be infringed. So we look for every single way to take feedback that is both reasonable, transparent, and productive. The problem we have with some social media platforms, as everyone knows, is that it can be divisive, it can get really heated, there is really not a lot of opportunity for fact-checking for some of the things that get put out there that are just blatantly inaccurate and misinformation that can guide folks in a bad direction and have some ill feelings about projects that any of us may be working on. So to that end, this social media policy asks that all the boards, commissions, committees, all of them, understand that you are entities of the city. So you need to kind of operate with the same guidelines and understandings that the city does in terms of transparency, obligation for participation, and kind of how we go about that. Now, I know P&T's been super casual through the years of how you guys kind of go about some of that process. Of, hey, come see us at the farmer's market, and and some of that stuff. But as our community has grown, and as some of the laws around transparency have been more fleshed out and become more precise over time, there really isn't an opportunity to be quite as laid back about it as we have been in the past. So with that, this social media policy asks that if a board, commission, or committee is going, I feel like I need like an acronym for that somewhere along the way, but if they are going to have a social media presence of their own, they need to have one person on the committee designated to do it, because the problem is when you've got 6 or 7 people chiming in, especially on a large group, you can get some crosstalk on things that are going on. A city staff person, most likely myself as the public information officer, or Maggie Tarr, who I think most of you know, or Faith Kinnick would also have administrative rights to the page, so that there are things that we can do to aid you all in administering that page, so it focuses on just being educational. It cannot be an advocacy page. Can't advocate for anything on a government page. So we educate, we don't advocate. It's kind of the I need T-shirts made up that say that or something at this point. So with that, with all of those things kind of being said around the policies, the last section under D of the policy itself is where we get into, and there's a lot of at no time shall anyone, this is an official policy, so it's got all of that language in it, so just bear with it for what it is. There's also a lot of cross-pollination between groups in our community. So, and Sarah, I don't mean to pick on you, but I'm going to kind of pick on you for a minute. You have a prominent role with PCEC as well. So if you're on the Parks and, if you were the admin for the Parks and Trails page, you can't be sharing stuff from PCEC because it gives the appearance that you're advocating for, that the city would be advocating for a position that PCEC holds, because it is an advocacy group to some degree.
Right. Can I ask a clarification?
Of course, absolutely.
So I think like one thing I've shared, and I do kind of go back and forth with this, is that PCEC is hosting a cleanup on a public trail through our Adopt a Trail program. Mm-hmm. Is it still okay to say they're doing a trail cleanup?
I would say let the city handle that on our page, because things that we are sharing on our page have already been vetted. They're fine to share. So if you want to cross-share from the City of Livingston page or Rec or Public Works, that's cool. And a trail cleanup is very different than like a campaign like down in Emigrant Gulch.
Yeah, sure.
Night and day difference between, hey, we're going to go pick up. But I would just ask that you share from stuff that is vetted already, and then we know that that's cool. It's not violating any rules that we have for advocacy or transparency. And it's not to be used as a means of gathering feedback and input on Facebook comments, because it is too difficult of a platform to manage in terms of a FOIA request or anything along those lines, where we look at, there's this comment, there's an exchange, there's something that maybe isn't relevant, and it is a beast to manage. So when we post things, generally speaking, from the city, we are posting on an informational basis, and a lot of times we'll even shut comments off. And give folks the option to reach out to us directly. We have numerous emails, numerous phone numbers, numerous ways.
Yes.
Drop in, come see us, any of that. But we have found that there's a lot of divisive pot stirring going on Facebook, and it's not really conducive for moving us forward as a cohesive community. So it just has not been good for us. So that's, and I don't mean to continually pick on Facebook. It can be Instagram or Snapchat or whatever we're working on now.
So we would only be posting on the Livingston Parks and Trails website or Facebook page.
Correct.
And if we were to want to post something tomorrow, who do we,
Contact me for now.
for you?
Yep, just go with me for now, and we will we'll work through that
Okay.
as we get all of that finalized. Because we're rolling this out across the board for everyone.
Okay.
So, and we've got to kind of see what that traffic looks like too before I commit to being the
What would
person.
also be helpful is that a lot of us don't really know how to use Facebook too well, and so the turning on and off the comments was a challenge.
Yep.
And so having that be a training on
Mm-hmm.
like if you make a post, this
Do
is
this.
what the things you have to turn on and off,
And that's one of the things we can certainly look at doing for whoever is the designated person for Parks and Trails Committee. Have a sit down, most likely with Maggie, because she's way better at it than I am.
that'd be great.
But yeah, we can certainly arrange that. for
Do you
sure.
have more you want to say before we have more questions?
The only other comment I had really was about freedom of information requests. So we keep very detailed records of every single FOIA request. We call them FOIAs, Freedom of Information Request, that we receive. So we keep a running log. We keep detail of what we're providing, what's been requested. So all of those sorts of requests should not be fielded by the boards, commissions, or committees directly. They should go through Faith Kinnick, who is the city clerk.
Can you give
And
us
she
an
will
example?
coordinate that. And if she needs stuff from you guys, she'll reach out to you guys.
And that applies
Directly.
even if the agenda has been published?
Yes, because
Or the
the
attachments.
the FOIA requests are a formal document that come in separately. And we have requirements under state law for what those documents need to look like and what has to come back to us and what constitutes a formal request, what isn't a formal request. There's a lot of legalities involved in it. And someone may also be requesting something that may have some level of protection to it that you may not be aware of, like if there's a legal action or something on something that they're requesting, it may be something that we need to look at or have the city attorney review before it goes out.
Is it possible if someone asks for information to say, if it's not posted on the Parks and Trails website, use this form? So that, because some of this stuff could be posted.
Oh, yes. Yeah, like all of your minutes should be out there.
Right.
Anything around projects you're looking at
Okay.
can be out there,
So
that
we can
kind of
suggest,
stuff.
see
Yeah.
if it's there. Okay, right.
Yep.
What's an example of something that, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. What's an example that might be a point of controversy as far as the gray line?
We had a I gotta be careful with this one. We had if a local celebrity were to pass away and TMZ starts calling
Okay.
and they do a FOIA request, there are certain things that we need to look at, especially if they're requesting medical information, because it falls under HIPAA. At that point, that there may be specific things due to privacy that and HIPAA laws that they're going to have to get a court order for us to release it. Things like that. I wouldn't expect that necessarily to come through Parks and Trails, but it's the first example that popped
Oh, that's fair.
into my head. So something along those lines.
Other questions from folks? Do you want me to open up to the public, or?
If you would like to, sure.
Okay.
That's fine.
Anybody on the public, Patricia, have questions of Lisa about this topic? Patricia?
Yes,
And if you could identify yourself, because we do record the meetings.
yes, my name is Patricia Graybo. The Graybo Building, 204 East Calendar Street. Family's only been here since 1885.
Only.
Only.
Yeah.
Which, I'm sorry, but I am absolutely shocked by what I've just heard. Absolutely shocked. I'm here for public process. How did this policy even get created? What process did you go through?
We went through the process that we normally follow for drafting of city policies and looking to improve internal processes and procedures.
Okay.
Pursuant to public
Could you just
feedback.
quickly outline that for me? I'm just asking a question.
Sure. We, look at other communities that have something like social media policy. We will ask for, hey, what are you guys doing in regards to social media? Sometimes we will look at it in regards to specific incidents that come up, and then we will look at
And who
if
is,
we need to address something in particular to make sure that we protect citizens' rights.
and who is we?
The city administration and city staff.
And who specifically are they?
All of the city administration and city staff, anyone that is involved in a particular issue.
So
It could be anybody. It could be all of us. It could be two of us. It could be all of us.
are the commissioners involved?
If need be, yes.
Is the public ever involved?
The public is involved in terms of the process if it is something that they have brought to us in the form of a complaint or a concern.
But there is no, our representatives advertise
these are
this to the
personnel
public,
policies.
And then the public has comments and then it
Yeah, no,
becomes
these are
policy.
personnel policies.
This is these are.
This is a personnel
I think all
policy.
these people personnel.
It is a personnel policy.
Personnel. So if you are a private citizen and you're a member of a board, then you are considered personnel.
You are a representative of the city because you are on a board, committee, or commission that is representing the city as an entity.
And is
To
there
the
a
citizenry.
law that oversees that, a Montana statute that oversees that if you are a member of a committee, you are representing the city?
I'm certain that there are. I can't cite it off the top of my head right now. I can get that for you.
I can't even tell you how shocked I am at this. But thank you so much for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you, Patricia. Any other comments?
My name is Hayes Goosey. I personally think it's an incredible step forward in that government can't be, members of a committee can't advocate for certain things, positions on a government page.
Hi,
So-
it's good to meet you.
You
Finally,
too.
I know we
Yeah.
exchanged
So,
a couple messages, but
I hadn't
thanks.
planned on making that comment, but I thought that was, if people want to advocate, I think that it's a perfectly good spot for them to advocate on their own page. But you cannot advocate on a arm of the government or a page that represents a government entity. I've been involved with a nonprofit organization for 20 years. One of the things we cannot do is represent or endorse political figures.
Correct.
And for obvious reasons. So.
And neither can we.
Right, absolutely. You shouldn't be able to, nor should we. So I think that's a step forward in that. In terms of the FOIA request, comment, or it's going to be a question, is I made a FOIA for the surveys from Reservoir Park. I haven't received those. I wanted to see if that is in the process.
It is.
Okay. And so I appreciate that. And that's, are we discussing Reservoir Park more later?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I'll
Later on the agenda.
comment for that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Anybody else have comments on this topic? Okay, if not, anything else from the committee of Lisa? Okay,
I'm free to go.
thank you, Lisa. Well, I appreciate this.
Thank you. Absolutely.
We've been wanting to have this discussion for a while
Yes.
on social media and
Yeah.
a few other things about operations of the committee, so thanks for taking the time to do this.
Absolutely.
Really
We're happy
appreciate
to come anytime, and if you come up with any other questions, just let me
Okay,
know.
great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, we're now going to old business.
Thank you, Carol.
So on the logo design, one of the things that I had a discussion with the city staff today. There's actually some consideration being given to revamping the entire city's logo thing. So I think there's some interest in making sure whatever logo we come up with is something that works with these other designs. So I'm wondering if we want to actually hold off on this a little bit and ask the city staff to give us some guidance on what they're planning and how this might fit in and how we might proceed on this.
How does it impact our contract with the designer? Do we have,
I don't know, but the city wasn't too concerned. They just are more interested in making sure that whatever the city comes up with, we're not going forward with a sign that they don't want to use or that doesn't fit with other work that they're doing on logo development.
In my opinion, if they're planning to do rebranding, it makes sense to hold off, at least to hear from them what they're doing. Because it may get scrapped anyway if we push something forward. So.
I agree. Any other comment? So are people okay if, I mean, is there a recommendation you want me to, or one of us can let Megan know we're going to hold off? So,
I'm going to talk to Megan about it.
so would you be willing to do it since I'm out of town starting tomorrow? Okay. And I can just email you 2 sentences?
Yeah, I just need to know the timeline for the city, like, and then sort of assess her willingness to hold off.
Okay.
Has she been paid yet?
She signed the contract, so I don't know.
Okay. I'll ask her that.
Do you think that maybe we could ask the city to do a little like a presentation or plan or something like that so we can hear from them?
They will eventually, I think.
Okay.
I mean, the whole idea is that they would present to us what their thoughts are on this larger logo design. And then we'd have an opportunity to communicate with them on that.
It is a little far down the process, to be honest. Yeah, and if I don't know, we're kind of at the final stages, and so if we have to go back to the drawing board, we might have to raise the funds again. Is the
Right. They know
implication.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think that's fair.
Okay.
Anything else? Is anyone here to talk about the logo development? Okay. So that's what we'll do. I'll get a couple sentences to Rachel, and you can touch base with Megan, and we'll see where we sit on
Sure.
that.
Yeah, happy to.
Okay, Reservoir Parks. So the idea here is that we're looking for ways to get additional public comment, and Allison, you had suggested a couple of, well, at least one visit up at Reservoir Park. I don't know if there's other public meetings being discussed, like going back to the farmer's market or just doing Reservoir. We would have to, as a committee, have another meeting, obviously. But this is just going out to Reservoir Park. Do you want to introduce that topic and then?
Yeah, so I think between the emails with Kendra and Jean and Rachel, it was kind of discussed having an on-site meeting at the park and doing our best to get it out to the public as best we can. Between a member of the public showed up and asked for a flyer on her door, so I did make a quick flyer that maybe we can put under people's windshields or windshield wipers or in their door, and it has the survey on the back. And an email address, so people can either email it in to us or come to the meeting. we could do a farmer's market again. I mean, I think that a lot of people came up and chatted, and that's more the general public, whereas the goal of the on-site visit is more of the Northside neighborhood. And then, of course, doing a newspaper, what's it called when we do a little
Like an
announcement?
insert or something?
A notice, yes. And then with Lisa's policy, doing a social media blast. And so I did a little trial run. I spent about an hour the other day, and it took me, well, I had 2 dogs and a kid, but it took me about an hour to hit 75 houses. So, and it was really windy, so the best thing to do is put it under someone's windshield wiper, because they were just getting blown away, and I don't want trash to be running around the neighborhood. So it's half a sheet, and I can email everyone, but what I was really hoping is that people could maybe take parts of the neighborhood. And I had printed a map, and sadly, I somehow, I think, left my house without it. So I will pull one up on the phone, and we can maybe each grab something. Oh, that'd be great. Thank you. That'd be
So
really
to
fast.
clarify, the next step would be going up to Reservoir Park
Yeah.
and doing our regular public notice on that. Maybe doing farmer's market, but it sounds like you're not sure if that's worthwhile or not. And then we would have a public meeting before the Parks and Trails Committee about
The
what we're hearing.
results of the survey.
We don't have to take action at that meeting. We can
Not results necessarily.
take time
discussion, right?
digesting what we're hearing.
Yeah, yeah.
Was Lisa saying that the farmer's market wasn't a good idea at this point in terms of,
I know, I was a little confused.
No,
by
I
that.
think the issue is if it's noticed.
oh, okay.
What do you mean if it's,
Well, we send out, every time we have this meeting, I send a notice to the legals. So it's in the legals. They also post it in the briefs and the calendar. That's a little iffy.
Right.
It sort of depends on the enterprise. But it's always in the legals. So it's just the notice. And then we have our interested parties list. And everybody on that list gets, every meeting that is a regular meeting that we're having, or a special meeting, or even a work session, they get that notice as well.
okay.
And we would do that same thing for this.
I think some of the confusion is the Facebook post said, "We want your feedback.
Okay.
Come to the farmer's
Oh,
market."
gotcha.
And so it was a misinterpretation of here or at the farmer's market.
Okay, thanks for that, yep.
But the enterprise has been really good about, in fact, I think they had it in both the briefs and the calendar and the legals. Twice in the legals this time.
Do they charge for that? That's
The legals.
the legals they do.
Yeah. So that's the process. Any questions from the committee, and then we'll open it up to the public?
Well, can we break up these neighborhoods to put out flyers?
Hold on, before we
Yes.
do that, so I think what Allison's proposing is that we conduct a meeting per se, like, similar to how we did that with the roping arena, right?
On site, right?
Yep, and how did everyone feel about that? Did we, like, was that a productive meeting for us? Is that worth our valuable time? Yes, no, is this something,
I
is this
thought-
different?
I thought the farmer's market model and format was more productive.
Based on,
The feedback responses,
How
the
many
number,
people?
the engagement, how many people, it's interactive, you have things to look at, you have maps, you have ideas. It's really contextual. The roping arena was very informal.
Okay.
And people just talking about their dreams and visions,
so,
And, okay.
which is still great, but it's. I
So
think it's
with
a-
that comment, the goal of the meeting at the Reservoir Park would be to take those same maps, pictures, and ideas that we had at the farmer's market, but bring it on site so that people who are within walking distance there can come and see the space as well as talk about the images, their concerns, their ideas, their constructive feedback.
So you're
And fill
talking
out the
about,
survey.
it's the centralization, that's what you're differentiating.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just the location, it's not the format, okay.
Yeah. I think that would work
Yeah.
really well, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of participation, I would imagine.
And will there be, what's the span of time that you've decided?
It's gonna start at 7 PM. I should have put 7 to 8.
Or 5? I mean, I don't, so that's a concern I have, like, what's the range of time that we want to do? The farmer's market is from 4 until 7. It's open to a large group of people,
Yeah.
right?
The feedback that I was getting when I was walking around the other day is that people didn't want it too close to school, too close to soccer practice, too close to dinner. And so the consensus was make it later.
Yeah.
And so, and then, I mean,
Well, sun
so
goes
I
down
took
at
that.
8:15.
Yeah, so it'd be an hour and 15 minutes.
So you're thinking of 7 to 8:15 or so?
Seven to dark.
Right, yeah. Would be.
Okay.
Seems suitable. Have you had any responses on the survey?
I just gave,
Make sure you speak up so we can, the
okay,
recorder picks it.
most people took the survey and want to come to the meeting. 7 people returned the survey while I was standing there, so that's why it took an hour to hit 75 houses, because people want to be like chatting, which was great.
75 houses or 75 cars?
I just put 1 on a car, so it was 75 houses, like 1 car per house
Okay.
in the driveway. Yeah. There were, yeah, I didn't want to hit any out-of-state license plates on the street, because we have a lot of Airbnb houses in our neighborhood. So I stuck with driveway cars or door knobs that I could stick it in, because I didn't want it to blow away. Or people in their yard doing yard work, I handed it to them. And everyone was really receptive to the idea.
Of the meeting.
Do you want to get public comment before we divide up the neighborhoods, or do you want to divide up the neighborhoods first?
Public comment? Let's do public comment
Okay.
first.
Well,
First, are there other questions for the committee?
Yeah, first of all, like, sorry, what is the date? I mean, do we have the time? What is the date? for the-
August 31st,
August 31st.
so it's in
Oh,
a
so
week.
it's soon. Okay. And then, in an attempt to get as much widespread input as possible, is it only going to be a written form, or is there an online version?
No, it says on here, it says either come to the visit and share the survey or email it to us with this email. So they could take a picture of it with their phone and send it in if they can't come.
Okay.
Or just send in comments?
And this
Or
is the
send in
same
comments.
survey that was available at the farmer's market?
Yes.
Yeah. And this is the city email address?
Okay.
One last question.
Yeah.
If
go ahead.
this is a city park, are we putting flyers anywhere else? And is it just on top of the North Hill, or is it northeast? Is it southeast? Is it west? How are we dividing?
It's a city park, so I think we need to reach out to the community. So, I mean, I know that people on the north side have wanted to make as much public comment as possible because it is in their neighborhood, and I appreciate that. But I don't think we should exclude comment from the south side.
Okay.
And how will you reach out to?
Newspaper, Facebook.
Okay. Okay. Anything
And then
else?
people also, if they get the survey, maybe will tell their friends. Hopefully. Yeah.
And their
Okay.
name will be on it, or is it anonymous?
It's anonymous. It just asks for if you're a Livingston resident and what street you live on.
Okay. And we ask that they only take it once.
Yes. That's a good
Do
point.
we?
It doesn't say that, but I'm
Right.
only giving them one.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Photocopies.
that's all right.
Yeah.
There's an art to surveys.
There is.
Yes.
There's an art to a lot of these things. I'm learning.
If
Okay.
one more question. If
You're
people can
great.
take a photo of the survey, can we not post that online and say, print this out, take a photo, and email it in?
Well, if it goes through Lisa and
Right.
she
Not
approves it.
anonymous. They lose their anonymity. That's
No,
the
no, no.
problem.
No,
Oh,
no,
I
no.
thought she was asking, can we take a picture of an empty survey
Yeah.
and
Yeah, like
post it
post a
online
PDF
and
of
say
it.
print it
So
out
they could fill out.
and email it in so
Yeah.
they could fill it out?
It's a file.
If we're,
That seems reasonable.
yeah, soliciting, provide.
Yeah, so in our,
Google Doc?
We can't do that.
we can't do that. No.
No, we don't do.
We can put it on our Livingston Parks and Trails page on the city government. But we can't.
Or the city can do the survey,
Mhm.
and we can send.
We
it.
can send them a PDF of this or a Word document, and they can post it and link to it.
That'd be great.
So, okay. So let's start with the public comment on this whole idea of setting a date in the process for Reservoir Park outreach.
Additional outreach.
Any public comment?
I guess it was a comment or a question.
And if you could just repeat your name, just because we're recording, Hayes.
And have you handed out surveys? I'm not sure on the North Hill. Have you handed out surveys?
I
couldn't quite hear what you were saying.
Oh, sorry. I just spent 1 hour yesterday handing out surveys to see how many houses I could hit in an hour, so I could bring that feedback to the committee. And then we're going to split up neighborhoods and trying to get it out to as many people as we can.
So
And
you'll
she
hit
hit
all-
75 in an hour, she said.
Yeah, no, I was just going to make sure you're going to hit all streets. That's what you're
Yeah,
suggesting.
that's
to do.
the goal.
That would be, would be a good goal.
Yeah,
Because
Yep.
Might need some
eliminating
volunteers.
certain streets.
yeah.
which I live
And if
in.
anyone would love to volunteer, that'd be great.
So,
Yeah.
second-
Thank you.
Yep, you bet. No, appreciate it. Second of all, how do you handle surveys? So survey data is inexpensive, right? So, and so that's why it's easy to collect.
Mm-hmm.
But easy data is biased data, either by subject to misinterpretation.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you handle surveys that are incomplete, maybe not filled out correctly? Is there a protocol in place for you to separate out what's a valid survey and what is something that it is less than useless? It could actually be misleading.
Well, what we can do is copy all of them, which we did on the first round with the farmers market. And then some people, for example, put everything except, as an example, natural space got a 1, everything else got an 8. Or maybe they didn't rank every single one that was up there, all the 6 or 8 options, whatever is up there. So all you can do is say, this many people answered it, some of these didn't complete the survey, this got so many first place votes, or got so many 8th place votes, or not go there. And we never will say these are scientific, because they're not randomly chosen, so they're not scientific. So all we can do is say, just like if we had people coming to a meeting, trying to explain how representative that is.
So I hope you'll treat them that way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, my entire career for the last 30 years is highly involved with because survey data is often less than useful. It's actually deceptive. And it provides false mandates for people to look at that and say, aha, I have what I need.
Yep.
And pay attention to that. My comment is to pay attention to that when you're interpreting this.
Great, thanks. Other comments? Patricia?
Where would we get a picture of this park and, for example, policy that was just, where do we get all the information that this board has? Is it
It's,
online?
yes, it should be, and I can check with Faith, but the first thing that went out was a diagram of the Parks and Trails Master Plan, okay, which has this original proposal on it. And then the documents that BILA, which is the landscape architects that are donating their time for this, developed, that we used at the farmers market, were all attached to one of our agendas. And so you could see all the images that they presented at the farmers market.
I was able to get the agenda, obviously, online, but I didn't see anything about Roosevelt or Reservoir Parks.
You know, I'll check with Faith because all our attachments are supposed to be posted online
Or were they?
with the agenda.
I don't think they was not attachments.
All right, I'll check with Faith.
And
They just moved offices, so I'm not sure if that was it or what, but,
And I apologize, I haven't been coming to these meetings, so I'm not familiar with this park. So could you take just a moment and explain it?
Sure. So on the north side, it's on the corner of High Ground Ave and Reservoir. There's a 5.5 acre city park. It's designated as city park land right now. At the moment, it's undeveloped. And the goal for Parks and Trails is to work on developing the park.
And my comment would be good for you.
Thanks.
and Patricia, are you on the interested parties list that gets,
No.
do you want to be?
Oh, of course.
I will add you to that. Like I said, those people get, whether they like it or not, I mean, they can get off the list, but every month when I send out the agenda, they get the attachments. And, okay.
So this is a question with the information.
Okay, let me just finish with the
sorry.
public first, and then we'll go
I
back.
have just
Oh.
spent 3 weeks with my grandchildren who are thinking of leaving Bainbridge Island because there are no parks and trails. I mean, there are no trails, and it's an unsafe place for them to go from one point A to point B. And I so support everything that this committee is doing. It's of great importance to the future of Livingston as far as I'm concerned. So I appreciate this. Thank you.
Thanks, Patricia. I'll add you to the list. So, other comments? Sure.
I have a question.
And could you again state your name first, please?
Richard Anderson.
Yep.
I've lived up there for 41 years, and there's never been an effort made to have upkeep on that park area. For example, this year, all the knapweed is going to seed, all the thistles have gone to seed. You talk to them about mowing it, and they tell you, well, we don't have the money, we don't have the manpower. So if you build this into this park, how are you going to take care of it? All those seeds from there flowing to the neighbors' yards and everything, and the city doesn't seem to care.
Okay, so we will make maintenance an issue that you raised.
Yeah, but how are you going to take care of it? If you can't take care of it now, before you spend a lot of money on it.
Okay, we're just looking for public comment. So, yeah. Did you want to say something? And
Yeah.
your name?
Heather Vieira. I was just wanting to see the survey. if
Oh, yes.
possible.
I have copies for you.
Did you want to make comment or?
That was it.
Oh,
That was it.
okay. And you should feel free to circulate those if you want. This is similar to what was developed and used at the farmers market. So, any other comments,
Yeah, Erica, Life Hybrid.
Erica?
I'm just curious, if the paper distribution is going to primarily focus on the north side, is that correct then? Or the survey distribution?
We're still working on that. I'm gonna look at the map with everyone today, and we're gonna try and disperse ourselves and pass out as many as we can. And if anyone wants to volunteer to help out in their neighborhood, I can definitely share the file with you. That'd be great.
Great. Yeah, I was just curious, around the comment of it being an anonymous survey, it stands to reason that someone could make hundreds of copies and just put in lots and lots of similar responses to game the system. So I was just curious if that that's been considered in the distribution of this.
Okay. Yep. Any other comments on Reservoir Park?
One comment, are you going to wait? So a reason for understanding where the survey came from is that stakeholders, which the closer you get to the park, the more of a stakeholder you become.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's certainly more agreeable to have yapping dogs and feces in a park that you don't have to deal with every day. So is there a plan, or my comment would be, you should establish some way to identify that and take into consideration those that actually spend time by the park, not only just the maintenance issues, but the issues associated with the before and after park use. Who's going to deal with that? I think at one of the previous meetings, it came up that the dog park is going to be self-policing, so which means that the neighbors will have to deal with that. Those that actually live and are adjacent to the park have to deal with that issue. Unlike Mayor's Landing, Mojo Park, I understand there's some issues with the Girl Scouts, but still, there's no neighbors there. And so dog parks work in places where there's not neighbors. And they work because no one really has to deal with that, right? So the only people that go to the dog park are those people who choose to, right? But the stakeholders next to Reservoir Park, we have to go there because we live there, right? And so when you have to go there, you become what's called a stakeholder, and that is that you deal with that on a daily basis. So I hope you'll take that into consideration in that, and that dog parks don't fit in established neighborhoods. Build a dog park in an area that's going to be developed, sell lots around that dog park, and then those that buy the lot are there because the dog park exists. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, questions or comments from the committee? And Sarah, you had something you were going to.
By way of example, we talk about the access to information. So Patricia requesting past agenda material, designs of the Reservoir Park and details. Does that still have to go through Faith, or can that come through our consortium?
I can do what I suggested to Lisa, which is tell people, to look on the website first.
Okay.
I'm hoping that all these attachments are on our website. And then if it's not there, they would have to go through FOIA. But this is publicly available, so.
So we cannot share anything that's been sent to us, to a member of the public, that's been passed to us on an agenda or in a meeting. I'm just trying to understand, yeah.
Well, that's the question about the public information.
Right.
If it's posted and already out there, they can have it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Just wanted
Can
to
we
make sure
get,
about
can we get
myself.
stuff back posted, like
I'll
these
ask.
minutes and things that
I'll
should be out
ask.
there?
Well, yeah. They were posting everything, every attachment that we had so that people could access them. So I've got a note to check with Faith to make sure these are all getting posted, so.
Okay.
Other comments at all? Okay, where do you want to go, Allison?
So I'd like people to take a neighborhood or a group of streets that they feel comfortable running through for an hour.
Is there a total number that you're shooting for? Like a goal for the amount of surveys to go out?
No, I didn't think that. That's a great question.
And then am I correct in understanding that the goal of handing out the surveys is to specifically target the community members closest to the park?
The on-site visit is to target people closest to the park, but the survey is for everyone. That's why we did it at the farmer's market also.
Okay, and the survey is still available on the website, and is it available on social media? And has it been advertised in the newspaper?
The survey has not been advertised in the newspaper.
It has not?
Mm-mm. I don't think so.
Any of those? Is it on the, and that's what?
We just
that's
announced
that's
that.
what we were talking about before. Okay, so we're not sure about how far the survey has gotten, other than being available at the farmer's market.
Right.
Okay.
You can recommend that, like we said before, that a Word document, which is easier to fill than a PDF, that we post that on the website, the Parks and Trails website.
Yeah.
If we do that and it becomes, so why it works, being anonymous when you're at the farmer's market is because you're interacting with an individual. They're not handing you 50 surveys. So I think if your flyer is lovely and I think it's detailed and it's great, but I would recommend we put a name or some kind of contextual detail on the survey.
Okay. That's fine. I just was requested to use the survey that was used at the farmer's market, so that's
Yeah.
okay.
I think it's a good point.
Jean, is there any concern with not having it completely anonymous, putting an address or a name or?
So I can't hear.
It's officially a public comment, right? So like if you had to.
She asked if there was a problem having a name and address on the survey.
If you do it, oh, sorry, it's not public comment. If you do it in PDF form, you can redact them.
Yeah. So
So-
we can make that recommendation. The city will tell us if we can't do that.
And asking their street name is not enough. We want to have their full address and their name. That's what we're requesting of Lisa.
Well, I think you brought up another concern about having non-residents filling
Well,
out the survey.
That wasn't really a concern. I just didn't want to be placing flyers of a local survey on someone from
That
Florida
doesn't mean
who
they're
might
not
be.
local. That could mean that they haven't got their plates
Right.
changed yet.
And I
There's a
was
lot of-
like working off of information that I know which houses are Airbnbs on my street, so I was just avoiding the overnight stayer, that's all. But yeah, it is a good point. I mean, because
This
everyone
is
has a
not
comment.
scientific,
No, it's not.
you know.
So we're gonna ask Lisa if we can add.
Well, look, we'd have to make a motion and just vote on how you want to proceed on this, or get a sense of what you want to do.
Are we looking for city approval to conduct the survey and have the meeting,
No, to post it.
to post it?
To post the survey online is all I'm asking you if that's what you're recommending. Sarah's already said she wants to add the name, have people put in their name.
Right, so we've conducted plenty of surveys through Parks and Trails, through the city.
Mhm.
So we can use the same process that we have in the past with the same level of confidence, right?
Which was through the city. So I would make a recommendation to suggest adding a name to contextualize and defer to the city on approving that format and the process.
Exactly.
So this goes to the city with a request, with the question about whether we could add the name, ask them to fill in the name, and whether they could then post that on the city website, make it available. That would be in a press release or an informational post on social media or whatever.
I think so. And then I think we can hand out flyers. Can we just add the name and then submit it to them?
Yeah, and just remember that
And then ask-
the other surveys, like the outdoor rec survey that we did in 2018 or 19, we did not ask for names. We did not ask for addresses. We simply asked if they were Livingston resident, and if they weren't, or if they were Park County but not Livingston resident.
Through SurveyMonkey?
Yes.
And we can use that then.
It's paid.
Yeah. I wouldn't assume that we could use one of the city slots on SurveyMonkey. All we're asking is, can we post this questionnaire? And all I'm saying is, on other surveys we've done, we have not used their name and address.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Are you only posting them on social media?
No.
No.
So you're going to hand out paper surveys, and those can be mailed in?
Or
The
emailed.
reason being is that several people on our street, they don't get the newspaper, they're not on social media. So
Right.
how are they supposed to comment on
Bit
this
meetings, we're
survey?
having a meeting.
They
at
could
the
come
park.
to the meeting. I mean,
What
we-
if they're on that day?
you know, there's,
You're setting
They're
up a
not
bias set of data already by selecting certain avenues by which people can comment. That's my comment, is try to figure out how to get everybody to comment. If that requires a stamp and snail mail, then maybe that should be an option too.
so just going back real quickly to the name and address. Your motion, and I don't know if it was seconded, but your idea was to add the name along with the address.
So will that cut down the number that respond, do you think?
if you don't have a name and address?
Yeah, either way, would
I
that
don't know.
affect?
It's to protect against the, possibility of duplication or some kind
Mhm.
of.
Right.
Except
False,
that
right.
we don't reject ones that don't have an address.
That's what I was wondering. I mean, if somebody doesn't put their name on it, we have ones already without
I
names.
think
So.
we keep it anonymous, and then I think that.
But I think you
we
could put
just
it on
have
there.
to have trust in the community that people aren't.
The SurveyMonkey has a default, you can't fill out a survey twice.
Oh. Yeah, it would have a unique IP address associated.
So it's been done.
You can't, you just have to use
Huh.
an IP address.
Why aren't we doing it online again? Because the
Because
city has to
everyone
pay
like
for it?
I don't think this raises to the level of a whole new commitment on that kind of survey monkey. It's expensive. I mean, we're just trying to get public feedback on basically what started in the master plan, and now we're trying to find out what do people want in that part.
Right, I think we might be overthinking it.
Yeah.
And if we could just get some input, and people who want to be participating in public process will show up.
Or figure out a way to comment.
They can come to a meeting, they can email us, they can call us. They can, there's a lot of ways to reach us.
Are we going to put out any kind of sign at the park to let people know that the meeting's taking place? So if they're not there, they can
That would be a great idea too.
drop an email or something.
Right.
Okay. So what do we want to do?
I think in the survey, so we're not public process experts. I think we have an idea of what we want our goal to be, and that is we want to have as much public input across the city as possible from residents and avoid redundancy, through as many platforms as possible. So can we defer to the city on what they recommend? Because I don't think we're in a position to be able to say we could use examples of everything we've listed, but I don't think
We might be
don't
better
have
off just
authority.
recommending something and see what they say.
So then, public newspaper, online
No, I mean
survey.
the name. I'm not
Oh.
worried about the process we
Oh.
use. We have a pretty big,
I think we go to Lisa. If we're going to do a social media, we have a process. The process is we make our social media post, and Lisa is going to either approve it or make recommendations to change it.
Yeah.
We do our usual newspaper with the announcement of the date of the meeting. We will have surveys available as well as pictures and images at the site of the night of the meeting. And we're going to get this survey out to as many people as we can.
and do you want the name on there? Is there
We
agreement on that? or-
historically have not used a name. So I think that Lisa, if she recommends we put a name on it, we do that. And if she says, I don't think there should be a name on it, then we don't. We follow Lisa's and the city's recommendation. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And she can make a recommendation. If we do, I think she should recommend, do we do a hard copy that someone has to print out and then email to us, or do we do a PDF? Because someone mentioned it is much easier to make multiple copies of a PDF, and so that would become a problem. But the city would have,
I can make a copy of this pretty easily.
yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second that we will use the survey, but we're going to ask the city whether we should put a name on there and follow their recommendation. And we'll ask if it should be PDF or Word.
Can we do name/address?
Yes.
Well, the address is already on there.
As the
Are
street
you
name?
suggesting leaving that off?
The street name?
Mhm.
There isn't it's just a street that you live on, it's not an address.
Right.
I'm suggesting that we say name and/or address. Just can we put some contact details, on the survey, is what I'm recommending. Should we be putting contact details such as a name and/or address on the survey? or,
And if they do or address, we're not getting anywhere farther than we are now. Right?
isn't it their decision?
Yeah, the way that is.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Is that what you want for your motion?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
And Carol, you seconded? Okay.
Right, yeah.
Any
City-
other discussion?
On the 31st, oh, sorry, not on the motion, sorry.
Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. Allison, since I'm going to be gone for a while, could you contact Lisa
Yeah.
to that?
Yes.
So we're still meeting on the 31st from 7 to 8:15. Are you all?
I'm going. And Kendra and Eric will be there with all the images, maps,
Do you have a
I'm planning on
table?
and, yeah,
I'm planning to do that.
Do you have a table?
I do not have a
I
table.
have a table.
Rachel has a
Okay.
table.
If, yeah, we'll talk.
Anything else on this upcoming meeting?
What day of the week is that?
I guess just if
Tuesday.
we are going to do signs, can we decide what we want on it? Or we can do this on email too?
We can't do it on email.
Okay. So
We
what?
can't do what on email?
We can't have ex parte communication on email with
Got
more than 3 people.
Right.
So
Okay.
What did you want to talk about?
he wanted to know about the sign that's going to be posted at the park,
Oh.
right? Isn't that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
You want to put a sign together for the park?
Yeah.
Thank
That'd
you.
be so great.
That would-
Thank you.
That
Yeah.
would be helpful, yeah.
Can you just pull it off something based on this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Just print it on a fluorescent bright something or other.
And it'll get taped to the table, or
No.
I was just going to stick it in like around
Okay.
the corners.
you have stakes?
I do.
No Monet stakes.
Yeah, I do.
And do we
Yeah.
need permission from anyone to stake that in advance of the meeting, or are you just going to do that?
I was just
That day.
Well, I think we should give people a little bit extra because I'd like to put on there or email so that people could, email
Contact
or
us,
get the
right?
survey, like if there's a link to the survey or something like that. So-
Okay.
Does that require any permission from anyone?
I would just let Mike Curtis know.
Okay. I don't.
I will
Probably-
make sure
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
And as far as
you.
the social media post and the press release, did you want to do that, Rachel? Or who wants to write that up?
How about you, Mr. Secretary?
That'd be great.
Sure.
I'll-
Good,
I
thank
can-
Get it, get in front of Lisa.
You've seen what we've done before for formats.
Probably not, but I can see it.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay, so you'll take care of drafting the press release and social media posts. Are we
I'll
going,
edit it if you need.
that has to go out right away.
I'm leaving on
Right.
Saturday, so I'll get it to you like tomorrow.
And we also need to do a public legal notice
48 hours.
to the enterprise, and that should go in. But they need time to post it, so that should go out right away.
Is the public announcement the same as the legal? Like, can we just let them know? Or does
It has to go to someone specifically with the enterprise,
Mhm.
and I'll forward that to you.
Mhm.
It's pretty simple. I can.
If we're intending to get the surveys approved and handed out all before the 31st, is it
I'm gonna email her
realistic?
tonight.
Yeah.
Still think that's a stretch.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering if it's in the PR and the legal notice. Is it possible?
No.
Just
Well,
do the best we can.
yeah. Though, we can do another farmer's market if we feel like the turnout is not very good.
Have it here.
Everyone, we can still pass out surveys. Like, if people can't make it, they can still email it in.
We should decide that now because there's not much time left for farmer's market.
How many? do we have?
I don't think the farmers market is.
Not even, no.
I'm not a fan of doing it.
Okay.
I think we should open it up to a different.
So you
A
don't want to
different
do a
public.
farmer's market?
Because we already reached out to that that group of people.
Okay? So we're going to do this. So the press release will be just about this meeting at Reservoir on the 31st.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the availability of the survey. Okay. Anything else on this upcoming meeting?
I guess just if the survey is online, if I could just get the URL so I can put something on the sign.
We have to
emailed
get it posted by the city. And
Yeah.
that's the question that you'll be asking Lisa, right?
Okay, so I'm emailing Lisa regarding the social media post, PDF versus Word survey, name and address needed, / approval of the survey, as well as a URL for the sign.
And getting it posted, yeah.
Okay.
Do you think Lisa could give us permission to post it at the site?
To post,
To
Stake the
stake
sign.
it at the site?
Probably.
She'll know who to
Michael's
call.
just,
She'll know who to call.
yeah,
she'll tell you.
you might get lost as.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on Reservoir?
Do we need to approve our distribution method?
Oh, the map.
Yeah. You guys want to
That feels really administrative. I don't see why we can't just.
do it via email?
out.
You can.
Okay. I'll eat.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Anything else on Reservoir Park? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the next.
Comment.
Oh,
I
well,
didn't get an answer on how you propose to pay for this park and keep it up.
because all we're talking about tonight is this meeting. We haven't made any decisions about that. So we're not here to debate it. We took your comment about concerns about maintenance, and we will pass that on.
Okay, thank you.
So that will be part of the discussion. So, anything else on Reservoir? Okay, then let's move on to Northside Trails. And you have the information in your packet, which we were requested by the city to submit a formal comment on this resolution. They had the, I guess it's the intent to do this, and it's going to be up on the, not the first city commission meeting in September, but the second one. So the question is, do we want to take a position on this? My comment, I clarified, was from me, not the Parks and Trails Committee. We have to vote on that, even though there are things in there that are from our bylaws and from our history working on trails on the north side. So we are being asked to weigh in on this.
So that's the Summit Street vacate request?
Yes.
Got it.
And just to clarify, which wasn't clear but was clarified at the city commission meeting, when one landowner requests to have some area vacated, the person on the opposite side, which in this case is Michael Chappell, or he also gets the same vacate. So in other words, the width of the road is 66 feet. These folks have asked for 33 feet. He will also get 33 feet. That also means that the easement for the trail that the city has said they want to hold on to is 10 feet from each of them. Excuse me. So it's 20 feet would be maintained as an easement for a trail. And that wasn't clarified.
And can we clarify so when we were up at Summit Street talking about active transportation, and my understanding was Summit Street Trail is the one that goes straight downhill. And Matthew said that he, under, I can't remember what document he was referencing, said the one that went along the south edge of the hill is actually the true Summit Trail.
So you're a little bit west. So that Summit Trail, the official trail, is the west side of Summit where it breaks. So this part, the 140 feet, is is east of that.
Oh, I'm confused.
Yeah,
That's why
it's
I'm
G
confused.
Street.
Okay.
The letter street.
It's North G
Gotcha.
Street to North M Street is like that other section of Summit Trail.
Gotcha.
This request for abandonment is North G Street, basically,
Okay.
right there.
I missed that, sorry.
So it's a whole different section of
Okay.
Summit Trail.
Thank you.
Any questions
Oh, that
before we
makes way
open
more
it to
sense.
public? Okay. Is there any public comment on North? Yes, Patricia.
We're talking about the recommendation on Summit Street abandonment.
Yes.
And I just publicly want to say I'm absolutely opposed to abandonment, period. It is so myopic to assume that you know where things are going to develop and where they're not going to develop, and for the city to arbitrarily make this decision. It is pretty amazing to me. And again, I am concerned about public process as well. So I feel like the public has the right to really have discussions, to debate this, to over a period of time. I don't think this should be an arbitrary decision that's made by whatever commission we recommend. So I'm here tonight to say that I'm just unequivocally opposed to this amendment. And I will bring others. I don't know if you would be open to emails from other people who also feel as I do.
Sure, and if you have a copy of that survey, the email address for us is on the back of that.
Okay.
I think it's webmaster@livingstonmontana.org.
Having been on the city commission, I'm just pretty surprised.
Okay.
Because that goes to faith in general, doesn't it need to be an attention to parks and trails?
No.
It doesn't.
No.
So we'll get it.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. So send that email, and these all go. I think Faith is the one who gets it, and then she forwards it to the right committee.
To which committee?
This committee.
Okay, okay, I will definitely.
I mean, it certainly helps if you say Parks and Trails Committee. Then she doesn't have to try to figure it out.
Right.
So.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Patricia. Anyone else want to comment on this?
I just have another question.
Okay.
So are we talking about on the master plan, the 8? Like where, I'm trying to figure out where on Summit Street. You said it wasn't one section.
It's North G Street.
Okay, so it's 5.
Yep. Anyone else?
I would-
Hayes,
I
and
would
then I'll
second
go.
Patricia's, Hayes Goosey, I would second Patricia's comments. City shouldn't get in the habit of abandoning rights of way in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you, Hayes. Yes.
I'm Galen Nicholson. I am just here to provide a little history about an abandonment request that occurred in our neighborhood back in 2016. It was resolution 4694. I live on North 10th Street. And there was a property owner there who wanted to abandon the end of North 10th Street, which turned out to be, Jean Marie, do you remember, it was 60 by 140 feet.
Don't remember.
Yeah, it was a fair chunk of city property that just at the time, and I don't know if this is still the case, the city cannot collect revenue for abandoned rights and ways, so I think that that's a good thing to remember. But at the time, the city commission looked at the situation, voted 4 of the present members against abandonment. The reasons behind that were, in this particular case, loss of public access was a concern. Doug Howe, the ditch manager, was concerned about access. It's a little bit different than what's going on now. But the concern I have is the precedent of abandoning property and the speculation of folks buying property and then assuming that they can go ask the city for abandonment. So as an example, within the last couple of months, that piece of property that was in that abandonment request that was denied, I think has been sold. And so there's a new gentleman up there surveying, telling the neighborhood that he's going to put in 6 units in a cul-de-sac on this particular property that was, in the past denied. So I think the concerns are, one, in our neighborhood it was erosion. What happens to the water that flows down a street that is surrounded by houses and pavement? Two, what is the value, the effect of the neighboring properties? We were concerned about that as a neighborhood. I don't think there's any view shed regulations, but certainly would have affected the view shed of many of my neighbors at the time. And then 3, the precedent of having property abandonment, private individual being able to make a profit on that without any value to the city. And so I would be against abandoning anything that the city already owns, simply because we do not know what we're going to do with this property in the future. And I think this, this again will come up in our neighborhood, that because the planning vision for the city is infill, we will get more and more folks who think that abandonment is a good idea in order to help with infill goals for the city.
Thank you, Kayla.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Erica?
Thank you for that context. That was really, really helpful. I want to agree with everyone here stating that I'm opposed to abandoning city property. I'm also curious, watching the commission meeting on YouTube, I was concerned that that was the final decision. So could you clarify moving forward if there's another process for a hearing or public input, because I was just curious about
Yeah,
that.
there is going to be another hearing. So it's the second, they meet the first and third Tuesdays, right, Patricia? First and third Tuesdays is when, and the third Tuesday in September is when they will have a public hearing. This was a resolution of intent to go to a public hearing. So whatever that date is for that, if somebody has a calendar, they will have a public hearing on this before the city commission.
And I appreciated your comments, Jean, at the meeting, and I was just curious why those types of abandonments or anything like that wouldn't come before your board first for recommendation before it goes to the city commission. So I think you have a lot of strength in the room here and your committee's expertise, and so I feel like it should always go, especially if it's going to include a potential future trail. Like, there's been a number of decisions made that are in the city that, there was the widening of 5th Street crossing, right, that affected a city trail, but from my understanding, the committee was not notified before that sort of got through the process. So I wonder if there's a way for those decisions to come before the committee, before they even go to a decision at the commission.
I think, and I just had a long discussion with the city manager about this. I think the process that will be used is that if something, because our role is to advise the city commission, and we're specifically supposed to look at the Parks and Trails Master Plan and the upcoming Trails Plan or other plans that get out there. So the process that will work best is once something goes to the city commission, like in this case a resolution, if they had said no, we would have no role in it then. But if they say yes, then the city will ask us, like they did on this, to provide a formal recommendation for the hearing that's coming up. So that's what I think the process will be.
Thank you for that clarification.
So, yep, go ahead, Mark.
Erica's husband, Mark Lighthizer. So I guess my question is, will your position, will you just make this as a forward based on the public comments, or a combination to this hearing into September? Is that kind of?
Can you repeat the beginning of that?
Yeah, so your intention is, as the Parks and Trails Board, is to maybe sum up the voice you're hearing in this room, combined with the board members' positions on it? Is that kind of how you present?
We will simply make a recommendation to the commission. My feeling is the more we can draw on our bylaws, the Parks and Trails Master Plan, the Trails and Active Transportation Plan that's in process, the more we can point to substantive documents or processes that support our position, the better off we are. And that includes public comment, because we frequently include what is the public telling us, for example, in some of these areas. So, yep.
Tori Lyons. I missed the city commission meeting, but I'm curious if anyone was participating in that. What was the city? What were the comments from the city with regards to how it benefits the city more broadly, as opposed to just the landowners that would receive the abandonment? Or was there any discussion of that at all?
There was discussion. The reason this is being requested, and we have a copy of it here if you want to look at it, but the reason this is being requested is because if you go up North G Street, the people have difficulty getting into that particular area, and they want to build additional houses on it, and they want to provide access. And I think the Durrell voted against it. Melissa wasn't there, and the other three voted for it. But I think the rationale was that, and this is this fine line between infill and what we said we want in the growth policy. We have, as a board, have a position in our bylaws to oppose abandonments and to advise the city commission that in some cases those abandonments might preclude us from using that area as a trail or a park down the future. And that was the basis for my comments, a big part. And we are in the process of working on trail system on the north side.
So it had to do with providing access for future development.
Right.
Okay. And is that not possible while that property is still in the hands of the city? Can the city provide such access?
Apparently not the number of, and I could be wrong on this, but apparently not the number of buildings that this person wants to put in there. I think that was it. Patricia, you were there? I mean,
No, I wasn't.
oh, okay. Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Does that, are you all set there?
Yeah, I think I need to do some research on my own, but.
Okay. Patricia, did you have something else to
I
add?
just forgot to ask one quick question, if I may. Did this go before the planning board as well, before it was brought up before the city commission? It did not go before the planning board.
I don't know. The planning department provided their recommendation.
No.
Okay. Provided a
That-
recommendation.
I'm sorry, I just am kind of, I'm sorry to say it, but I'm just chagrined. The growth policy that we worked so hard on did not go before the planning board. There was no preliminary work done on this. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Patricia. Anybody else on this topic? If not, we will go back to the committee. And is there more discussion? Is there a recommendation? They've asked for a recommendation.
We're not in the habit of abandoning city properties, so I'll move to deny the request.
To recommend they
To
deny?
recommend a deny.
I would second that, especially based on bylaws.
Any discussion?
I would like to add to that. I would like to add, in terms of our bylaws of being a committee, it's supposed to be privy to abandonments and to solicit public comment, as well as the growth policy. I think it was objective 8.2.4 says ensure that bicycle, pedestrian, and trail connectivity is evaluated in all requests for modification or abandonment of public right-of-ways or access easements. And so I think that the staff report in what was provided to the commission did a really poor job to reflect on the growth policy, just in how in terms it contradicts as well it adheres to the growth policy. I feel like it was just kind of a broad sweeping statement that it adheres to infill, and therefore we should accept this abandonment. So I would request that a process, if there is abandonment in the future, that the growth policy, other planning documents are looked at. Trails and parks and trails are considered in that, because we're a little bit more up to speed on some of the planning that we're doing around trails, some of the visioning, some of the other groups in the public, because this really does put a damper in our parks and trails plan that's also on the doorstep. And while it might not have the engineering and technical details that will help make us this decision, it does show the greater connectivity and an overall plan. So the staff report was very persuasive, and there's a couple untruths that are also in there. It says there are no other connections besides G Street to Summit, and that's actually not true. You can connect through E Street and you can connect through M Street over the irrigation ditch. There's actually where you can walk across. And then it was also said that it's unbuildable, and that's also not true. I've seen a lot of people build on that topography. So it's very dismissive of the possibilities of it can be anything else except for these houses. I would also like to request that if we determine if we're going to abandon a property or not, that we see designs from the developer. It was really unclear the size of the units. He was wavering between they could be 4,000 or 2,000 or under 2,000, or I can't remember. There was nothing certain. There was nothing submitted in the application on what they might look like, and so it's really impossible to decide if we would accept this or not, and if this is a good opportunity for our community to provide housing versus a trail and trail connectivity. So I don't know how that fits into a motion.
It's a long motion.
Yeah, and I want to be careful that we stick to what our role is here on trails. And the process, like I said, we're going to have a broader discussion about the process, because I think it's going to get simplified, about how we're able to comment on some of these things. This is how it's going to be, like where they have an intention. The city commission will direct us that they want our input, or the city will tell us, so we'll send that to them. That's what we're doing now. So I don't want to stray too far into saying we're part of the city's process too soon, because that's not our role. So that doesn't affect this motion. It just might affect the language that goes into our explanation to the city commission why we're doing this.
Sounds good.
We're pointing to the bylaws,
The growth policy.
the growth policy, and anything else?
Staff report.
What about the Trails and Active Transportation Plan?
And the Trails and Active Transportation Plan. The current and the draft that we're waiting for, as well as the approved.
Okay. Any other discussion? I think the bylaws are our strongest point, and it's supported by everything we heard here from the public about abandonments. So, any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of sending a resolution to the city commission opposing the abandonment, vote aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, unanimous. So I do need someone else to draft this. Rachel, do you have any?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry,
Can
I
you give me
just,
some direction on,
you have my comments that I submitted, that I clarified were my comments.
okay.
Um,
Do you know when that needs to be submitted and?
I think by the 8th, but I'd say the sooner the better. Get it to Faith,
Okay.
because they will need that for the agenda. It'll be included as an attachment.
They're already included.
But I'll get that date to you tonight.
Okay.
I'll confirm that. Okay.
Is that public hearing for the 21st?
Is that the third Tuesday in September?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the 21st is the hearing. Okay, that's it on Northside Trails. On Mayor's Landing, I will tell you that, again, through this discussion with Mike, what we're doing on Mayor's Landing, we sent, remember, after our field trip, we sent a note to the city staff saying our recommendation is the fencing and clean up the E. coli from the cattle that had been there from the roping arena. And that was as far as we went at that time. We got a proposal from LBC. They just handed it to us that night, but then Sarah sent it on our June meeting. And then we got a letter from LBC asking why the fence that was put up around the roping arena was put up in that particular location. I forwarded that to Shannon because that wasn't part of what we were doing.
Right.
And Shannon replied, I forwarded that to LBC and they seem fine, that at least they knew the process that occurred. This, our role on Mayor's Landing, because what we're talking about is the Parks and Trails Master Plan, we have the option if we want to recommend adding Mayor's Landing, that area, to the park, first of all, because it's not currently in the park. The LBC requests and other requests, like the person who approached us about a rock garden in the wading pool, those go right to the city. The city will decide if they want us to pursue that or to send it to the city commission. So we're not taking action on the LBC proposal tonight. That will go directly to the city staff first. If the city staff and the commission want us to do that, then we'll look at it. So at some point, we don't have to do it tonight. We can't do it tonight. We can recommend to add that wooded area to the park. But we have to notice that, and that has to be a formal action.
Request, right.
Any questions about the LBC?
That fence, so is that, I think it's an annual lease by the Rodeo Association. Is that fence, that's going to be their parking area? That's pretty determined. Is there any possibility to receding that back so that there's more public access or annual public access?
I don't know.
More?
I don't know.
Is that something that Parks and Trails could recommend?
We could simply ask Mike. Or if we were to propose that wooded area become part of Mayor's Landing, the city would then have to do some kind of formal design that says, here's the area that is under lease.
Okay.
Would we have say on what happens to that part of the park if it
We
is?
could.
Okay.
We could. Yep. Anybody here to talk about the LBC proposal? Okay. So updates, Wishberry Hollow. Connor, did you have anything you wanted to add? I know it seemed like that went successfully.
Adorable. It was very cute. Won the cuteness award. I hadn't actually talked with Megan about numbers or anything. but we went a couple times. It got a little bit worn out towards the end.
Yeah.
With some wind and storms and things, but probably some dogs and kids involved too. But I mean, the first day we went, I think half of us or almost all of us were there, and it was really cool. I mean, I think it was a smashing success as far as I know. But I haven't heard anything specifically from Megan in terms of like. I don't think there's really any tracking that we did. How we would have. But
It was great.
Yeah.
I went the first day
It
too.
was so fun. Any plans, do you know, to do it again?
Yes.
yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
mean, we
awesome.
would definitely do it. It's going right now in Bozeman too.
Yeah, a friend of
Bozeman
mine's working on
version.
the Bozeman version, yeah.
So the ferry migration continues. We'll be back next summer.
Very good, cool. Trails and AT plan, any updates, Sarah?
We don't have a draft yet, but they have until consultants end of August, early September. It's uncertain if the city's going to host or if the consultants are going to host a public input meeting. And they are going to provide the steering committee. One of the gaps that we identified was that there's a lot of spiderweb branching of trails, but there isn't a circular connectivity trail, a greater rim loop. So they're going to provide a map or a place of engagement where we can go and try to find connections of that
Nice.
grander loop.
Yeah.
So everybody's welcome to participate in that.
Cool.
That's it.
Great. Green Acres Park. So the folks that are interested in getting help on Green Acres, they have been canvassing the neighborhood because they're also doing an upcoming sewer project there, the city is. And so all he said is their number one input may be replacing playground equipment that the county removed for safety. So this is another one that some of those things can just be recommended to Mike Cardos and the city. This is one, though, also we could recommend that Green Acres be added to the Parks and Trails Master Plan because it's not in there, obviously. It was a county park. So that could be added. We don't have to add recommendations at this point about what gets done there, but we could simply say it needs to get added to our list of parks, and so it's included in all the regular stuff they normally do in parks. So, any questions on that? Any comments from the public on Green Acres? Okay. And then the woodlot. I didn't know, Rachel, if there was anything.
There's no
there.
update other than our fearless leader, Derek Stringer, the facilities director, resigned, and
I saw that.
Kerwin Klumpers is the new director, so I imagine he'll be taking the reins on that project as soon as he gets up to speed with everything.
So someone asked me, and I went over and checked, but that gate they put up there right across from the pool, that's not locked. So people can still go through. They were concerned. They had just driven by because it's so nice that they cleared it out and there's this little trail system in there. It's really nice in there now. So.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're going to be welcoming the public.
They'll be what?
Welcoming the public into that space.
No.
I wouldn't say that yet. I don't think that's, sorry.
It's a discussion.
That's premature.
Still under discussion.
I mean, a lot has to happen.
It's a nice place to walk, though.
It is.
Very
I've been there.
good. Great. So, do we have anything else on social media we need to talk about tonight? Or
Outside our hands being tied? No.
well, we have
admin?
one social
No.
media thing that's going out.
No one, yeah.
I'm not quite sure how to do that, so I will figure that out.
All right, well,
We do need to
we're all
select.
in this together. So,
And,
I don't have Facebook on my phone.
social media.
and Connor, are you willing to be the point person?
Yeah, I can be that person.
Yay.
Love, my shiny new Facebook account.
It's not going to accept any friends. but-
No, actually, I might not. We'll see.
So Connor will be the point person for the committee unless anybody has an objection? Okay.
No, I'm happy.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Connor.
Yeah, well, don't thank me yet.
Okay, any public comments on things that were not on this agenda? Yes.
Just an update on the other section of Summit Street, if there was any progress on that?
You mean where the Summit Trail is designated?
Yes, the number 8, I'm sorry.
As far as we know, the city has no legal lease for that trail.
Really?
And that land was up for sale.
Yeah, so would next steps be like approaching that owner or to get like access, or just because city doesn't own it, it's like a no-go?
People are still using it.
Oh, I know.
We're struggling with that. And if you have suggestions, we're happy to hear them. But we only became aware of this in the past year, that this trail is a designated trail, but we actually don't, they can't find any document that shows that we have a legal easement on that area.
Okay, because my property line like butts up to that, and I know that there's a legal easement, like I can't remember the yardage after it. So my understanding when I bought the land was that is truly owned by the city, that road. That's
Really?
an extension of Summit.
We'll have to do more digging. We have had trouble trying to figure that one out.
My fence line is the quote-unquote alley, if that were to ever be developed, because I'm literally the red house that's like in the triangle. So I get all the
Wait, and what's your address?
601 West Summit Street.
Okay. And your understanding was that that was city? Okay.
Yep, 100%. At least, I think
That
it
would
was
be
20 yards from my fence line.
Matthew had some input on that. So we were out there for the plan. Yeah, that's what Allison was talking about. So I referred to your street as being the right-of-way, and he corrected me and said, no, it's not this. It's actually the trail that goes along the hill.
So there's a legal easement, but it's not
No.
on Summit Street?
No, he said there's no legal easement, but the trail is the one that's along the topography that kind of hugs the shoulder, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I said, this is Summit, and he goes, actually, it's not. It's that one. Yeah.
But even that, there's no legal easement?
I don't think that there is.
But you thought there was?
Yeah, or at least that's how it was sold to us.
By the realtor?
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
Historic use
Like the
of-
seasonal
of,
streams.
And right away is not the correct term, but of a space for travel can be used to establish a legal easement. So there's a lot of case law, if you want to look, especially in Oregon. There's an example of case law in Oregon where the beach had a historic use of travel, and so that established public right-of-way along the beach up to high tide. So if there's a way to document historic use of an area for traveling, it's possible to establish a legal easement from that.
Thank you. So something else we probably could delve more into understanding what we have legally there. Thank you for that. Any other topics that were not on the agenda? Yeah, Patricia?
First of all, I want to thank you again for all the work that you do. I'm going back to Front Street. When I was on the city commission, we created the Bozeman Trail Connection trail for $38,000. Not growth grant, but we had an agreement with MRL to have an easement south of Front Street for a bike path. And what I'm curious about is why that was abandoned or what the history of that is. Because that, of course, I had talked with this committee about there's a northern and a southern route of the Bozeman Trail as it comes through. It's a historic trail. Front Street was the Bozeman Trail, as well as on the other side of the hills that I took you all on the field trip for. So it is an historic trail, and of course it is so important to the safe transportation of people on bicycles and so forth. As we know, we lost a young man because the city abandoned that plan to create that entire 8-mile Bozeman Trail circular bike path. But Front Street is definitely a part of it. So I would like to just mention that, because there was an agreement with MRL at the time. And sadly, the city did not follow through on that. So I don't know where to take it from here, but perhaps I should just talk to MRL again.
It will be, I think, considered in the Trails and Active Transportation Plan. We at least are looking at the big picture of that. I think the challenge we ran into was the fence that MRL put up there right adjacent to Front Street, precluded a trail on the south side of Front Street. And that occurred without notification of the city.
Yes.
So we've talked to the city about some kind of public access along there. The sidewalks are inconsistent on the north side. So we've had some discussions on it, and I'm hoping the Trails plan, when it comes out, will address what our options are.
Well, if I should find out from MRL what happened to our original agreement on being able to have a trail on the south side of Front Street, I would certainly love to inform this board.
Okay, thank you.
On that
Great.
agreement.
Good. Any other comments? Okay, great. Then we'll go to committee comments.
I had a comment shared to me by Dan, who lives on the north side on North Yellowstone. He's concerned about the bike path and the condition of the bike path right now. He rode it the other day and knows that it's in need of being repaved, and he wants to know who to chat with, because he potentially has some money that he wants to put towards that project.
That would go to the city manager. Okay, let me finish with her first. Anything else that you want to comment on?
No.
Okay, Sarah?
There's the expansion from Merrell Lane to Carter's Bridge is getting a turning lane all the way down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that project, they're going to expand towards the bike lane, but they're closing down the bike lane and they're repaving that whole section.
Yeah, they're going to redo it, which will be
So there's already money,
So
it's
I
federal
will-
funding
Okay, so I'll clarify him which section.
for him. And that's kind of like Murdoch's, and that's where it gets, well, it's the whole thing where it turns from sidewalk
Right.
to Carter's, the bad parts. However, he could pay for landscaping.
Okay. Anybody, any other committee comments? Okay, so a couple things. We have our September and October meetings, no conflicts as far as I know. November is the day before Thanksgiving, again. And the one in December is 2 days before Christmas. So just to keep in mind that depending on the workload, we may want to schedule a different date rather than go all the way from October to January. So just a reminder of that. Another thing, let's see, Rachel, your term is up at the end of December, but you're interested in reapplying, right? Yes? Don't wait tonight.
Yes.
I know I have to have my final answer.
You know, I'll talk to Faith, because what happened last time, remember that we had this hole between when the city commission acted on the recommendation
Right.
and our first meeting, and I'd rather not have a hole. I'd rather have it done at their meeting in December. So I'll talk to Faith about how far back we have to go to notice that there's a vacancy. We will have to notice it regardless, and accept comments and depending on how many people apply, we'll have to have a couple people from the committee who interview whoever's applied, and go the same route we always go. So just as a reminder for that. And then in January is when we elect officers. and I'm not going to be the chair next year. Okay, so it's been 5 years. I think that's long enough. I tried to hand it off last year and didn't get any takers, but I really need someone else to do it this coming year. So I'm still on the committee, but I think 5 years is long enough. So that's why we're taking off on a road trip tomorrow. So just as a reminder, give everybody time to notice this. So, anything else from the committee? Okay, great. We'll have more of a discussion about this process that they want all the committees to go through, and particularly ours as advisory to the city commission, and we'll go through that in more detail.
And when should we expect that?
Well, I would like to have it in September.
Okay.
I mean, we didn't have it on the agenda, and it's sort of hard to go through too much of it.
Okay, so at our September meeting, we'll go over that, and then we should also all come prepared with some kind of proposals for our winter meetings.
Yep.
Schedule. Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anyone want to have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
That was quick. Rachel and Sarah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. 7:56.
So is this our copy, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Have a great
I'm looking for